Best and worst picks of the second round, per bot. We're on to the second round of the draft where there's a lot of question marks about who the best players are in this round. I mean, there's a lot of talent in this round, but then there's also some big question marks according to Fantasy Pros ADP that
Oh,
I think we
huge.
have to discuss, bro. This second round, man, it's full of landmines.
Yeah, I think so too, man. But we're here to help you navigate through that, man. So a
Yeah.
lot of good players here too. So
Yeah.
you
Well, you
know,
mentioned good players, bro. Get to it. Let's get to it. Let's talk about the best players to draft here in the second round. Who you starting off with?
the best player to draft in the second round is a huge value, and in my opinion, a lot of people are just scared off. The reason why they're avoiding this person is because of fear. But my guy is Kyron Williams, right? Yeah, I know that they drafted Blake Corum. I get that, but Sean McVay historically has really ran a one back system. He's still a main person in this offense. Last year, points per game wise, was second only to Christian McCaffrey. So if you want to get scared away from that, that's cool. Me, I don't play that scared game, right? So if you got somebody out here who's really putting up first round numbers that you can get in the second round, I'm all for it, bro.
Well, I was going to go with my best player, but I'm going to go with my worst pick in this second round. And my worst pick is Kyron Williams. And we
Yeah,
just talked
okay.
about it. You mentioned him being scared, but it's not about that. You're taking him at running back 7 ADP right now, and he's
hmm
going overall in drafts as the 15th pick. Now,
hmm
maybe that wouldn't be an issue if you were just going for like the workload or whatever. But now you got to talk about the injury risk. You got to talk about Blake Corum being a part of this team. So for me, I look at Kyron Williams and I'm like, yeah, I see the upside, but there's tremendous risk when you can get players with a lot higher floor here in the second round. So I hear your
Mm,
take on Kyron Williams, but for
mhm.
me, the concerns about being a little smaller size wise, and they went and got a bigger back. And if he does get nicked up at any point this season, we know what Sean McVay's gonna do. He gonna rock with his one guy, and that could be Blake Corum. So I think the ceiling is there. I recognize what you're talking about there, but I
Yeah.
think this is one of those players. When I talk about landmines, there's a huge potential floor if things don't work out. Definitely the definition of either top five back or somebody we're not even talking about towards the end of the season.
Very true. Very true. It's all basically how how savvy you are when you're going for risks, right? The risk will pay off if he stays healthy. We could really say any one of these players can be hurt, right?
Yeah,
But if
it's
you
true.
base your draft off of that, I think you're failing, man. You're cutting yourself short. So if we're looking at upside, that's really your guy, bro. That's really the best guy in the second round.
Well, we'll see about that. We got best and worst, so differing
Hmm.
sides there. Who do you have as your worst player here in the second round?
Yeah, so my worst here, I know it probably is going to ruffle some feathers, but this guy, if you want to talk about unproven, I mean, he's the definition of it. This dude from Fantasy Pros going as wide receiver 9. That's your boy, man, Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm talking about like this is crazy how high he's going. You got to take him above people like Devonte Adams, above people like Drake London. You're taking him above all of these like proven Mike Evans, all of these Debo Samuels, all of these proof. You got him at wide receiver 9 already, and I can understand why people would do that because everybody's kind of looking for the next breakout rookie wide receiver, and you have to understand when you got when you got Justin Jefferson, who did it as his rookie year, that offensive coordinator is a top offensive mind. When you got Puka Nakua, yeah, Cooper Cup got hurt, but Sean McVay, top offensive mind. You know what I'm saying? You got those type of players. Do you really
Zach
see
Taylor.
that? Do you see that on Arizona? Personally, I don't. The talent is there, right? But if you're taking him at wide receiver 9, like realistically, what are his expectations? A great rookie year for somebody like him, 11, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Is that worthy of wide receiver 9? Nah, bruh. So that's my worst pick in the second round by far. And I don't see why a lot of other people don't see it that way.
I tell you this, you already know, man. You sound just like me because I say the same thing on that one. Marvin Harrison, bro. It's crazy how they reaching for him. It's just the expectations, I think, in our heads. We're like, yeah, he could be a top 10 receiver, or he's better than the worst, but he's better than the other guys. So let me grab the upside. But it's like, what is his upside? And when you put the numbers out there for yourself, sometimes you would amaze yourself at what those numbers actually translate to.
That's crazy, bro.
The same thing can be said for my best receiver, which is Davante Adams. And I think he's the best value in this round. Now, this is a guy who did have 1,100 yards. He did have 8 touchdowns. He did have 100 catches. So we know the performance is there. He finished the wide receiver 10 last year. And now we're looking at him as, oh, man, he's getting worse. He got a quarterback upgrade. He was dealing with the AC sprain last year. And he was with the coach and Josh McDaniels, who did not force feed him the ball. In the second half of the year, we saw a whole different Davante Adams with Antonio Pierce, who did make it an effort to say, hey, we got to get our best player of the football. Currently going as the 19th overall player right now, the 10th receiver off the board for arguably the best receiver in the league. There's a case for Davante Adams to be the best receiver in the league, and you could get him at wide receiver 10. Historically, he has been a top 5 receiver. Was it that the targets went down? No, he had 170 targets last year. So if we can just get a slight improvement this year from Gardner Minshew, who was able to make Michael Pittman into a top 13 receiver, Davante Adams, I love Michael Pittman, but Davante Adams is a much better receiver than Michael Pittman. Yeah. So I think with all these factors in place, this is a player that's at a discount right now because we're tired of the old name. I have Davante Adams as my wide receiver 7, and to me, that feels low. So I think this is a player that you can get extreme value on. I've been taking him at the top of the second round. I've seen drafts where he falls to the middle of the second round. To me, Davante in the second round is crazy work because this is a guy we've always talked about. Yo, am I spending a top 5 pick on Davante Adams? Am I spending a top 7 pick on Davante? And he's going in the second round now.
Crazy. How
are you feeling about Davante Adams?
I mean, you make a bunch of valid points. You know, I'm not going to sit here and down talk because they're valid points. Davante is a stud. Wide receiver 10, there's a couple guys I would jump him ahead, but I think it stops really at I think right there, my whole battle is with him and Puka, right? So, you know, bumping him up, but I would still take A.J. Brown and everybody else above him. But, yeah, I mean, right there at the top of the second round is not a bad pick, especially if you start with a running back in the first.
Yeah. So, hey, there goes the best picks there in the second round and worst picks of the second round for fantasy football. And we got you guys coming up with the third round here shortly.